Hello, and welcome to Yukon State of Mind, the show that aims to foster the conversation about mental health topics in Yukon, while reducing the stigma for those afflicted with mental health conditions. I'm Kim Solonick, and this week's episode features Naturopath Marnie Cooke, who shares her insight into natural and holistic approaches to mental wellness. Susan Stanley, who shares her own lived experience with mental health challenges. And trauma therapist Natasha Chatterton shares some listening tips that are helpful when assisting someone through challenging times. But up first, the outreach van has been operating in Whitehorse for many years and regularly offers services to people who need it. We met with outreach coordinator Megan Grudeski to learn more.
I'm Megan Grudeski, and I am the program coordinator for the outreach van. The outreach van does many services. Our primary objective is harm reduction, equipment, and exchange, but we also do outreach, community support, connecting clients with referrals to other support agencies, hygiene supplies, clothing, and a little bit of food and warm beverage. The outreach van does a lot of tremendous work. We see about 30 clients a night, generally a few more in the summer. And I think we're having a really positive impact on being able to be a sort of consistent support for some people who maybe lead a bit of a hectic life. We're in a van, so sometimes it's hard to reach people who are maybe tucked away in a place we can't get at. But other challenges we face are fighting stigma of addictions and mental health, and really trying to advocate for clients about housing security and food security. When we see clients who may or may not be experiencing some housing security or homelessness, we try to be able to give them a meal to eat if they haven't had anything. We have fresh fruit and muffins and tea and coffee on the van, but we're also able to provide them with ideas of where to go for the night, or starting to make phone calls about trying to get into either the youth shelter or ensuring that there's a space for them at Salvation Army. We're able to give a bit of clothing so people can be warm as they're trekking about, and we're just trying to be a support and hear people out about what their struggles with finding housing is. So the outreach that the van do that we find very helpful is just sometimes providing people with a hot cup of coffee and a chance for them to vent about frustrations in their day or tell their story, or be able to just be an unconditional ear that listens. The van is staffed by professionals from Many Rivers Counseling and Support Services, Blood Ties for Direction Center, Kwanlin Dun First Nation Health Center, and Fetal Alcohol Syndrome Society of the Yukon. Anybody who wants to support the van either through donations or maybe a volunteer opportunity, I would encourage them to contact me at Many Rivers, and I would be able to tell you what we're in need of or give you some ideas of how you might help out. In general, we are always welcome to accept donations of socks, especially now that the weather is kind of warming up. We're looking for hooded sweatshirts, mostly in men's sizes, but also women and youth. The other volunteer opportunity we might have is looking for people to help bake really healthy muffins for us to hand out. So if anyone is interested, please give me a call. The van is able to support people in all ranges of their journey. So we do see people who are leading a very addiction-fueled lifestyle, but we also are able to help people who have maybe been able to stabilize that sort of behavior and are doing well, are employed, or any of that. The van does not discriminate from clients who want to access us, so we're able to help whoever, whenever. The outreach van operates Monday through Saturday, 4 p.m. till 9 p.m., but starting in June, we're going to run Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Susan Stanley is a Whitehorse resident who's learning to live with the challenges of depression in order to live a better life. Susan invited us into her home to hear her story.
Hi, my name is Susan Stanley. I live in Whitehorse. I've been here since 2001. I came up from Calgary. My experience with mental illness occurred during my first year of university. I was at Trent University in Peterborough, and I finished my first year. I returned home and I went to Trois-Rivières in Quebec for a French immersion course. I discovered that whoever I thought I was wasn't who I was. I didn't at that point know who I was anymore. Like, I was like a vase that developed cracks, and these cracks just became deeper and deeper until the vase broke. I broke. I returned home from the French immersion course without having completed it, and I just broke down. And I went into a severe depression. Now, this is not your 3-day depression. This is where you can get out of bed, but you just feel like you're dragging a piano around, and I couldn't even lift a cup of coffee to my mouth. It was just too heavy. Everything was heavy, and everything became this really dark shade of blue. And I kept hoping that this funk I was in, it wasn't a funk, it became a clinical depression, would end. It didn't end. It went on for at least 3 months. Here I was, 19 years of age, where one should just be sort of in the prime of life and experiencing, having adventures. And I was having a breakdown. And I remember sitting in the living room of my parents' house thinking, I need help. Well, my father had contacted a specialist in Toronto. His name is Dr. John Sloan. He's a practicing psychoanalyst. I saw him for 4 years, and it was grueling. When one examines themselves, it's a very painful experience, because you realize not everything is good that's inside you. You realize that, or I realized, there were a lot of difficulties in my family that I hadn't acknowledged, and this all became very apparent, and it was very tough on the family, particularly my mom and dad, to try to come to understand that the family dynamic was sometimes a very difficult one. So the last 30 years of my life, 30 plus years, have been, I've had some great stretches of time where I really felt that I was on top of the world, that I was doing well, and I couldn't have done this without medication. I have to say that medication has, it allows me to cope. I'm somebody, I think, that will probably be on antidepressant medication for the rest of her life. But for the last 30 years of my life, things have been up and down. As I said, some good stretches, but certainly some really significant valleys. And I found myself in 2005 in another fairly significant valley. And I reached out to Dr. Sloan in Toronto, who was very gracious and agreed to take me on again as a patient. And there's something to be said about the doctor-patient relationship and meeting the person that is right for you, that kind of gets where your brain is coming from. And so we began therapy again, and it's been over 10 years. I call him every Tuesday morning, and he's there waiting for my call. And I find what helps me is talking it out. Some people write, I've attempted that. Some people paint, I've attempted that. I've attempted all sorts of ways to express how I'm feeling. But I've found that talking to a therapist is probably what is best for me. Other things that have really helped me are yoga. I fell in love with the yoga community here, and that's really helped. And a healthy diet, not that I'm the most healthiest of eaters. I mean, I love my cookies and bread, and I'm working on cutting those out. There is still this stigma around mental illness, and I think what's important for me and why I'm telling my story is because I have had success in my life, in the sense that I was employed, I was well employed, I have a home, I have a child. I have a beautiful child who's 22 and just finishing university. I'm also blessed that I married somebody who's very understanding of me and of my condition, my mental illness, which is depression and anxiety. I'd like to encourage people, if they think something's wrong, to seek help, and that it's not a weakness. Having a mental illness is not a weakness. In fact, we're stronger because of our mental illness. And why I say that is because it's made me more empathic. I can easily put myself in another person's shoes. I reach out, I try to help. It's made me, my mental illness has given me, I have found myself in my mental illness. You know, every day is not great. It's not a bed of roses. Some days I'm stuck in bed, but I know who I am now. So much good can come from discovering who you are. And you know, you can't always do it by yourself. Reach out, get help. There are people out there that want to help you become the person you want to be.
Marnie Cook is a naturopathic doctor practicing here in Whitehorse. We visited her to learn more about her overall approach to health and mental wellness.
My name is Marty Cook and I'm a naturopathic doctor and I practice here in Whitehorse, Yukon. Similar to medical doctors, naturopathic doctors have 8 years or more of training in biomedical sciences. However, we use that training a little bit differently. We use natural remedies to encourage the body to heal itself. We excel as naturopathic doctors in preventative medicine, so preventing disease from occurring in the first place, as well as treating chronic disease. Some of the positive experiences that I've seen in people that I've treated with mental health conditions are they have felt like they've gotten better sooner than they may have otherwise thought. So that there's been a weight lifted off their shoulder and that they're excited to get better. The things that we do on a daily basis, like the food that we eat, plays a critical role in our overall well-being, our physical and our mental well-being. So the types of natural remedies that we use are quite varied, and it depends on the condition that the person is experiencing. We have a number of tools at our disposal, and they include herbs, acupuncture is another, and then homeopathy as well, which is another form of medicine, and nutrition. So when people with mental health conditions implement diet and lifestyle changes, they're able to notice that they've got a daily rhythm that they can get into because they're either exercising every day or every other day, or they're eating certain foods, and it starts to build into their lifestyle and becomes a routine for them, which leads to a healthier lifestyle overall. When it comes to acupuncture and mental health, I've noticed a decrease in intensity of the mental health concerns that people have experienced. So acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine is a strong focus of our training at Naturopathic College. It's used to stimulate blood flow in the body. If blood flow is not flowing well, then you can get the body not functioning as optimally as it could be. So acupuncture is something that takes a little bit more dedication on the patient's part because they have to come in for regular visits. When it comes to herbs for mental health conditions, I notice that can take the edge off their concern. It can alleviate some of the symptoms. Herbs that can have an impact or influence mental health conditions are ginkgo biloba, lavender, and St. John's wort. However, it's always important to consult your healthcare practitioner to make sure that what you're taking is safe for you. If the person is still experiencing difficulties or needing extra help, then that's when I start considering other disciplines. So perhaps at this point in time, pharmaceutical medications or referring them back to their medical doctor or another healthcare practitioner is indicated. If someone's interested in learning more about the various techniques that I offer in my clinic or that naturopathic doctors do, they can check out our website, www.yand.ca, and that is the Yukon Association of Naturopathic Doctors, and they can learn more.
We're here with Natasha Chatterton, a trauma therapist operating here in the Yukon. Today, Natasha is going to take us through some active listening skills. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
Tell me about active listening skills.
Active listening skills are a beautiful tool for really allowing a person to feel heard, to feel understood, for activating the attachment and the attunement part of our brains, which are the part of our brains that will allow us to feel soothed and connected to. What active listening is not, it is not trying to solve the problem, it's not trying to fix it. So it's moving away from thinking that we need to fix or find a solution and moving towards allowing a person to be heard and understood.
So you're saying these are tools that would be for listening to someone else. So tools on how to listen to someone more effectively.
Absolutely. When somebody comes forward and they're feeling, emotionally volatile, or they have a story that's really impacted them, they're coming forward just in a state of frenzy, perhaps very emotional, perhaps crying, perhaps angry, perhaps confused, just really learning ways to actually listen, to be there for them instead of trying to solve it.
Do you think you could demonstrate some of those listening skills if I was to present a story, a scenario?
Absolutely. So we'll start off with some of the internal components. So let's say you're someone who comes to me with a story, with a challenge that's arisen. Right away, I want to just check myself, checking in with my breath. It's just kind of noticing my own breath, noticing my own feet. This is all happening internally. And then I check in with my intent. Okay, so somebody's coming that I care about here. What do I want here? All right, I really want to be here to listen. And then I put aside judgment. All right, this isn't about picking and choosing whether or not they're right or wrong. And then take one quick moment just to notice my body language. Am I sitting here in a closed state, kind of looking off? Or am I here, okay, I'm open, I'm ready to hear you?
Would you vocalize any of those skills? Or is it all body language?
Good question. Those are all pieces. They happen very quickly. Just kind of a brief scan on the inside. So that as a listener, we're here ready to receive the information.
So you're not necessarily solving my problems. You're being empathetic to what it is that I need to share and making me feel heard and respected.
Absolutely. So Kim, do you have a story that you could share that brings some emotional charge, some activation?
Driving with my husband.
Tell me more about that.
Well, my husband grew up in Toronto, and even though we live in the Yukon, he still drives like he's on a Toronto highway. So he's an aggressive driver. I'm a much more relaxed driver, and I get very anxious when we drive together.
It sounds really frightening.
It's sometimes frightening, but it's more frustrating, and I find that it shows a lack of awareness of the other people on the road.
So you're feeling like you're in this car with your husband and you have some responsibility towards the other people on the road, and you end up feeling some angst inside of you because it feels like there's disrespect towards others.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm feeling.
What helps you to feel comfortable when you're on the road?
Listening to the radio and looking at the scenery. And getting there as quick as I can.
So if I have this right, you get this anxiousness when you're driving on the road with your husband. You really hope that your husband could kind of settle down, show some respect for other drivers. And what you do to calm yourself is listen to the radio and kind of just pay attention to where you're at and focus on where you're going.
That's right.
Thanks for sharing, Kim.
Thank you.
So what we just demonstrated there were some active listening skills. So the piece we went into some empathetic responses such as, wow, it sounds like this is really challenging for you. And notice when I said, it sounds like this is frightening for you, you corrected me and said, well, it's not so much frightening. And so there's not a risk of saying the wrong empathetic statement. Offering empathy is simply allowing the other person to know that they're being heard, and they'll correct you. So we're not going to say the wrong thing if we're really checking in with our intent and asking the person how they feel. So the first step is empathetic statement. I hear this sounds difficult. It sounds like this is a challenging scenario. It seems to me that this is something that you want to work out. So statements that really let the person know they're being heard. Okay. And then we move to open questions. Open questions, prefixes such as how and what. Those really open up space for understanding. It helps you to dig a little bit deeper in what's going on for you. And it helps also our prefrontal cortex to come online, which is the part of our brain that brings in that rational thinking. So there's a lot of magic to those open-ended questions. And ultimately it helps you to feel like you're being understood and that I care for you. And in the final skill that we looked at there, summarizing. So summarizing kind of takes the entire conversation that's been had and offers it back to the person who's giving the information. And what that does is almost holds up a reflective mirror to you. So suddenly you have the chance to see things in a different light, but beyond that, deeper than that, you hear that I was listening to you. And the beauty of an individual feeling that they're being listened to is that our attachment and our attunement parts of our brain, those are some of our basic needs, as basic as drinking water and eating food, those become activated, and suddenly we feel more safe, we feel more secure. So that active listening part, really hearing the other person, can have this incredible ability to soothe the person right away, shifting from trying to find answers, shifting from giving solutions, and moving towards truly listening.
That is great information, Natasha, and I plan on putting it into practice on my way home tonight. Thank you.
Well, I look forward to hearing from your husband about that. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching Yukon State of Mind. Please contact us with any suggestions on what you'd like to see on the show. For more information about the Mental Health Association of Yukon, you can find us on Facebook. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'm Kim Solonick.